Hello, welcome to Truth to Hear. Over the past few months, we've been talking about everything from COVID-19 to the unrest between the racial injustice and law enforcement, racism, the laws of this country and all the structures of it, and everything else in between. But there's a whole picture that ties all of it together. One is not separate from the other. And we're going to continue to look at all the aspects that are horrendous in our country, continuing to look at the temperature of what we see and realizing that it's bigger and broader than just one situation, one problem. Tonight, we're going to talk about part of society that is really hurting. And we used to treasure this aspect. We used to treasure them with all that we have. And now they seem to be an inconvenience, or they seem to be a method for political cause. And that is our children. But before I begin, let's welcome to the conversation, Brandy, Bill,
Hi.
and David.
Hello.
Welcome, guys. I know tonight seems like it's a kind of a leap from COVID to racism to children and how do they all fit in? But we're going to talk about that because it's about the temperature of our society. And why is one issue in society like racism causing so much unrest? Why is COVID-19 causing so much unrest? But then we have the issues with our children, that is the next generations going down and going forward. And they are being impacted by so many things and there's no one speaking up for them. Why? What is that? What do you guys think? What is the difference between the first two and then all the aspects that we're going to talk about with our children? I think there's a connection, but I want to hear from you guys.
You know, mine is just more humorous, but when I always like music, and there's a song from the 50s that said, I called my congressman and he said, quote, I'd like to help you, son, but you're too young to vote. And I think that you're not wrong. And children have always been somewhat of something that people use as a baton, something to pass off and try and get their points across. But if we, once again, treat every individual as a person, not as a collective, not as a group, but as a person, I don't think you can quite do that.
No. Were you done?
Go ahead, David.
And I'm not sure why I'm noticing this. I'm a grandparent and I don't even see my grandchildren because they're out of state. But the thing that's striking me is that when my children were in the home, the big debate was homeschooling kills socialization. And those of us who were doing the homeschooling were just shaking our heads because no. We get together with each other. They probably socialize more and better than they would at school. But what's concerning me is, whereas we adults have already grown up and we've already to some extent learned how to socialize, these children now are being forced into a homeschool situation that is much worse than the traditional because they're isolated. And so to me, they're stuck at a point in their development, whatever that is, in terms of carrying over into their adulthood. And you see it on the streets. You see it, you know, am I making any sense?
Yes, you are. And yeah, and we want to talk about that aspect a little bit later, because I do want to go completely into the school system and what's happening with the kids with the isolation. But there's two other concepts, two other things that's happening with our children that nobody's really talking about. And I think they're monumental. And why aren't we outraged about this? And one is, you know, we all know about the entertainment industry. And there's more and more adult actors who were children actors speaking out about their abuse in the entertainment industry. It's not getting mainstream media. It is not getting the attention I think that it deserves. And I worked in the entertainment industry. My kids were in the entertainment industry. And it is real what the dangers that are out there, but there's no one giving the voice in the mainstream media about this. The actors who are coming out and voicing it are being, labeled troublemakers. They're being labeled crazy. And there's an interview that Corey Feldman did with Barbara Walters, and he began to expose what he believes him and Corey Haim faced as young actors with sexual abuse. Now, I cannot confirm it or deny it. I'm just saying this is the report that he's given over time. But I think Barbara Walters' response to that is so important. She says, you're damaging an entire industry by speaking out. And I think that is so key, because for someone like Barbara Walters, who's really held up to a very high standard, and I respect her for all of her great work that she's done over the years, but that is just one of the truth statements, is you can't talk about things like this. It's damaging a great industry. And we're putting industry above the welfare of our children. Without children in Hollywood, you're not going to have everything you have now. Children are a main part of it. But no one's willing to take the responsibility of that. When women came out, the whole Me Too movement started, right? People started going to jail. People started getting, all charges against them. But you have children coming out and no one's doing anything. Why do you think that, Brandy?
It goes back to a broken system isn't broken if that's what it was designed to do. And I think it was swept under the rug for so long. It's like, and that's why Barbara Walters was like, wait, this was an agreement somewhere back. If this happens, we scoop it under the rug, remember? And we're going, nah, we don't like that. Because new generations should create new movements. And so the new generation is going, nah, I'm not sure why our parents thought this was okay, but it's not okay. And so I think that's why it's not getting, I don't think it's getting a lot now because of coronavirus, pandemic, voting, the election, and all of that. But if all of that was not going on, I do feel like it would get more mainstream media. And I also think so because abuse, domestic violence, all of those things in our country, it's a norm. It's not, no. I mean, I was in a domestic violence situation, so I know how unnormal it is, but it's one of those things that's like, oh, she's being abused? Oh, okay. Oh, you were kidnapped and held for weeks? Oh, okay. These things have become normal. And so it's like, oh, a kid is being abused, a pedophile. Oh, that's normal. I published books about stories where women were molested by their father or whoever when they were 7 and 8 years old, and they're just telling the story at 60 something, and it's still like, I don't want to tell my family, I don't want to out the person. You're 60 years old and we still don't want to tell the truth. So I think it's societal altogether. It's like, tell it, but is anybody going to care?
And I want to say this for the next comment. And I agree with that, but I also, it is very difficult to speak out when it is you who have been abused. But Hollywood, like you said earlier, it's a system that was designed to work this way. No one's denying that there's not abuse. No one's denying that there's abuse in Hollywood over children. But you have, on the heels of just a month ago, 39 children being saved in Georgia from trafficking, right? It's not even on mainstream. Now, I know there's other things, but you think when you actually legitimize, people have been crying out that children are being trafficked, and they find 39 children in one place. You would think that publicly, some mainstream somewhere, somebody would speak up, something would be said, except for YouTubers you know, on the internet, repeating it and getting the word out there. But on the heels of that, you have Netflix doing this show called Cuties. And I'm not going to like post pictures up because they're all just too graphic. It is kiddie porn. And so it's like, okay, adult kids come out saying, I've been abused sexually by the entertainment industry. Then you have little proof from kids being saved by trafficking across this country, not just in Georgia, but there was about 6 or 7 within a month span of groups of kids being found. And then on the heels of that, you have this Netflix show. Have you guys heard about this show called Cuties? Yeah, you have this show that by all accounts is a child pornography show that says that, hold on a minute, I want to say this, because what Netflix says about this and why they don't want to take it down is from the USA Today on September 17th. Netflix says that Cuties is a social commentary against the sexualization of young children. It's an award-winning film and powerful. And a powerful story about the pressure girls face on social media and from society to be grown up. We encourage anyone who cares about these issues to watch the movie. So they're, even with all the criticism they're having, all the complaints they're having, they're still saying this is a good film because you need to see it in order to understand it. But I say this, 700 girls were auditioned for this film. 700 11-year-old girls had to twerking, show their stuff, act like, you know, things little girls shouldn't act like, dress like things little girls should. 700. Now, where's the outrage on those 700 mothers or family members that put those kids up there? Where's the outrage on the producers, on the people who actually put this together and thought this is a really great thing to do? There's no outrage against for our children. There's no outrage if it makes the companies, the industry money, if it benefits the political agenda, like Bill said, then kids are able to be used any way they want. And it doesn't matter how much people like you and I speak out. YouTube is all over it, speaking out about these issues, but mainstream media is silent. So what are we supposed to do?
I will say this, that it's pretty widespread as far as the sexual trafficking for people that are young. Now, we don't usually have little kids that I've ever had to deal with. They've been abused inside their families, but we've got young teenagers from about 13 on all the time. Usually they end up in a group home, and then problems happen there where they run away and cause problems. I mean, the problem is when somebody's been raised in a very dysfunctional system, I guess. I'm not right word, dysfunctionally raised. They don't even know how to behave in the sense that for their own selves. So they run right back to it, and that's such a problem. I'm just saying we have that problem where I'm working as a cop. They take the young person, they move them to another area of California, not going to move out of state, but another area of California, say, we're going to take care of you, we're going to feed you, we're going to clothe you, send you to school, take care of all your needs. And the kid runs away the first week, goes right back to the situation they were in. And it happens a lot. I'm just saying that this is something that it breaks my heart as a dad. And Melanie, you know, I've got all mine are girls, every one of them. I got all my kids are girls. And none of them have run away or anything like that. And they're mad at me a lot of times because I'm a daddy, but they don't run away and get out there. You know, I'm scared for these kids. And we do our best, but I don't know exactly what to do completely, other than each individual is an individual case. I don't really know what to do all the time.
Yeah, and you know, it's never gonna go away. The young ladies or young men who are raised in abusive homes, taken out of their homes, not raised correctly, that run away and get caught up by the sweet talking of the traffickers. Yeah. That's been for ages. But I'm more talking about the industry using children, because I think where it equates to is, and I know that this seems like a leap, but I don't believe it is, because here, to sidestep it, we're so used to saying, knowing kids are being used by industry, right? And we look the other way. That's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. Woe to the parents, right? Woe to the parents. But then we have, in my eyes, COVID-19 here. And it's like the kids are being used all over again for political agendas. And when do we stop using children for political agendas? And it goes back, Bill, this is up for your alley, because I don't have the notes right in front of me because I wasn't prepared for that. But when they started doing vaccines, they tested them on children in orphages.
I was in an orphanage, by the way.
No, but you know history, so I thought maybe you would know history-wise about this. I do have notes in my book, but so the first vaccines that they were testing, they used children in orphanage to test them, because nobody cared if they got deformed or got sick or anything like that. And so it's just our country has always used children for gain, because nobody really speaks out for them. And like Bill said, they don't vote, they don't have money, they don't have any power to affect anything. And us adults are so busy doing, like Brandy said, there is COVID, there is racism, there is the presidential race. These things is what's got our adult attention. So like we're up here dealing with adult issues, and people are going in and using our kids right under our noses. I don't know what to do.
Back whenever they were putting the first vaccines and everything, that was a long time ago.
Yes.
Before I was around, or any of us were around. If you went to an orphanage where there were no parents, they had no advocacy. Now, even by my time, I'm 58, and whenever I was put up for adoption at 1 year old, there wasn't a foster system. I was put in an orphanage. I didn't get adopted until I was 2.5, and not quite 2.5, 2 years and I think 3 months. But during that time, you don't have an advocacy group. They had the best they had yet. I'm not saying they weren't trying, but there really wasn't. Now we have foster care and everything, but even that fails a lot of times. And so it is really rough when you don't have anybody speaking up for you. And children without parents aren't going to have too many people speaking up for them, because children are going to speak up for themselves. The children actually don't know. That's what I was saying about the girls that run away again. They're 14 years old. They think by taking them out of that situation where they're being prostituted, that we're being abusive to them.
Mm-hmm.
In their mind, we're the bad guys. We're the terrible, mean cops that are taking them out of the situation, pulling them away from the person that's actually abusing them. And, but they don't know that. So they run right back to it. So their brain isn't completed yet. So you got to have adults doing this, but who's speaking up?
We need adults to step up for the children.
Yeah,
and
the kids aren't going to do it.
We need to do it. Macaulay Culkin gave an interview in France, and he said when he was approached by the entertainment official, I won't say who or anything like that, but he kept saying, "I'm only 11. I'm only 11," and he knew what was about to happen was wrong, but he kept yelling, "I'm only 11. I'm only 11." The adults need to rise up, because kids can't. Even if they know it's wrong, they can't rise up. And that's what I think, and I'm going to segue it to COVID-19, because, and believe me, you guys might not agree with me on this, and that's okay. But here we have COVID-19. Everybody was getting up in an unrest about how long it's taken, especially here in California, to open the doors, to get our freedoms, to do this, to do that. And then they say, okay, school's going to open. You go to school. You go to public school. Now, to me, here we are once again using kids. And this is my thought. And swallow it, be kind. They want an adult vaccine, and they want it now. They want to keep things closed. But here we are saying, nope, we're not doing vaccines. Most adults that I know are saying, You know what? You haven't had time to test the vaccine. How are you going to make vaccines right now in 2 months and we're going to be okay and just utilize it? A lot of people are not for that across the board. Some are, a lot of people are, but a lot of people are not. A lot of people are about to say, hey, we're going to open up regardless. We don't really care about it anymore. They're starting to sue mayors and governors and sue people about their freedoms. Store owners are starting to sue the government about their freedoms. So what do? Put kids in school. How do you put kids in school when you can't even go in a public place in crowds more than 5 people? How do you do that? See, that reasoning to me, I never understood that reasoning. How is it safe for kids to go to school, for teachers to teach kids, but yet you can't go out and do the normal activities of life because you're going to be exposed to this disease? And, you know, I never understood that. Maybe you guys can do that. But here we are. And just listen to this, because this just makes me, you know, sick. Here we are in the first week of school opening. All right. This is September 7th. All right. 550,000 U.S. children have tested positive for COVID-19, a 15% increase since August 27th to September 10th, according to CBS News.
How many people?
550,000 children. Before school opened, everybody was saying, oh, kids aren't affected, kids aren't affected. Now we have, as of September 17th, 550,000 children. During just those 2 weeks that school opened, the first 2 weeks in school.
I wonder what they're saying, and I don't have any idea that I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm wondering, just thought, were they always that positive, but nobody knew it because they don't show the signs so much as an older person?
Well,
and so
what
they
they're
were
saying
tested,
is that
but now that they're going to school and they're testing them, everyone. So maybe they were always affected as far as infected, but they got the virus, but they don't show the signs, so therefore nobody was testing them.
That is what some people are saying. It's because they weren't being tested, but you can't go from no children to 550 in 2 weeks and say it's just because of testing.
If you were only testing people that were showing the signs outwardly and kids aren't showing the signs outwardly.
Oh no, Bill, these kids are showing the signs outwardly. They don't test kids to go to school. This is kids with active COVID virus. And it says it's even worse for kids because they have, there's a chance that they can develop inflammatory syndrome that triggers long-lasting symptoms. Kids become long haulers, means they get it and they keep it. It's not like a quick go away. It affects the inflammatory system and it affects them for a very long time. But here we are. And guess what you're going to do? Parents are calling out for immunizations. The very things that they wanted to do before school opened are now being agreed upon because now it's affecting our kids. And now parents are saying, wait a minute, we need immunizations. Now it's close all the doors. We don't care anymore. We don't want to open. It gave the fuel to do what the government has wanted to do. To me, they use the kids to make the adults want and desire. You know, what is it? I know we got to go to break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. I'll get your responses. I know we have to go to break because Bill has another show to do. So thank you, Bill, for joining us. And we will join you on your show at 7 o'clock it's live on Facebook, right, Bill?
Yeah, Facebook Live.
Facebook Live at Bill and Barbara.
And Bill Kaufman at Facebook Live.
Bill Kaufman, Facebook Live. Join his show at 7 o'clock. All right. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Well, welcome back. We have Brandy and David still with us tonight for our discussion, and we're just correlating how our children are often used by political and government and entertainment and industry pawns I don't know how to say it any other way. And, I don't know how to change it, but I think we need to bring it to light, because there's no doubt that the school system did indeed have to open. But to have them immediately put kids into schools, and then after they become so engrossly infected with COVID, then they start closing the schools. A case in point is Florida. It says cases among children increased nearly 9,000 cases in a 2-week span in schools that began to reopen. Mm-hmm. This is so disgusting. A pediatric report released on August 25th by the Florida Department of Health showed 48,730 confirmed cases among children under 18. The schools were required to open in-person classes under a directive of the Florida Education Commissioner. But a judge recently ruled in favor of a teacher union, saying that the order violated the constitutional rights. So they knew it wasn't safe, but they made them go anyway. And now 48,000 kids confirmed. And then they're like, okay, let's take them back home.
Right.
Again, kids are allowed to go to school, but stores aren't open. We're not allowed to go to appointments with each other. I don't know about you guys. This week was horrible. I've had medical appointments, and there was an 8-year-old that was crying at a doctor's appointment. And it wasn't about that appointment, but they were crying. He was crying because he said, well, no, you can't go back with me, because he had a dentist appointment earlier. And they wouldn't let the parent back there with the 8-year-old. So he had to go to the dentist by himself, which is very scary for an 8-year-old. I watched a 3-year-old be taken from a mother's arms at a blood lab because the mother couldn't go back and hold that 3-year-old to get blood drawn. She was able to stay 1,000 feet away, but she couldn't go back to hold her child to get blood work at 3 years old.
Well, and the nurse can't handle it.
Well, no, it took 2 techs to hold that little girl down and 1 to do the blood work. Now, you just traumatized that little girl for what?
Right.
For what reason was that little girl traumatized?
And why is that than having her mother hold her?
Right. And the mother had no fever, no symptoms, just like the little girl. They're from the same house. If the little girl can go back, the mother should have been able to go back. But all over, like, I don't know where you guys are. I know you're in South Carolina and New Mexico, but here in California, nobody can go back with anybody, even an infant. What is going on with that? We're damaging our children.
Yeah.
We are damaging our children because this is affecting them psychologically. We are tearing apart the family dynamics, that connection that we need. Children need to know when it's scary, mom or dad or someone that loves them has them, is holding them. They need that comfort. Not, why did you leave me alone to let them do that to me? We're tearing apart the fabric of our family and our youth. Then you have the isolation, no social skills. These children growing up now are more connected to a tablet and a computer than they are to a human being. They are learning everything from AI, they're learning computer skills, they're learning just interaction. Zoom is how you interact with people. You don't go see friends anymore. Oh, I'm going to Zoom my friend. That's normal. Oh, I talked to my friend yesterday. Someone told me, a little kid told me, I talked to my friend yesterday. I said, oh, really? You had a play date? Yeah, we had a play date. He's 6. I said, really? Where'd you go? The grandmothers, they were on Zoom. They were on Zoom. This is how we're raising kids. Go ahead, Brandy.
You don't think it's a part of a hidden agenda?
That's why I'm talking about it, because I said in the beginning, it might seem like we're far-fetched, but we're not. We're going into where everybody is connected by electronics. We're going into where we have no social things because go ahead. I'm going to let you explain, Brandy.
Well, I was coined under the term latchkey kid. You
Yes.
go in the house, you watch some after school specials that were absolutely the best shows because they were clean.
Yes.
They meant something. They had some kind of analogy. You know, by the time you watch the after school special, well, for us, my mom was walking in the door. We knew not to cook. We could use the microwave, and we didn't have social media. We raised each other. I had a brother and a sister. I have a brother and a sister, and we knew not to open the door for anyone. And the
Right.
people who could come in already had a key. So here you have these children have YouTube raising them, and YouTube has everything on it that you can name. I think they don't have porn, and that's about all they don't have, but it's probably this close to it.
Yeah.
And so here you have their after school specials are nothing like ours. Their television is nothing like ours. And now you've taken them, they can't go out into the world, and they're glued. I mean, glued to the telephone, the TV, the Fortnite, the games, and even things like that. It's violence, violence, violence. It's either sex, drugs, or violence.
Yes.
And it's like this is what you want us to stay stuck in the house with. It's got to be some kind of backdoor agenda, because if this is so, once we all let's just say the world went back to normal January 1st, there's a whole year worth of trauma that millions of people now have to heal through. Trauma that was embedded, whether it was the children, the husband and the wife. I hear a lot of people getting a divorce because they didn't know who they were married to. You know, just all kind of trauma, just from the kids' perspective, having to watch all of this, not have the socialization that they need. My inherited daughter, bless her heart, she says she don't like virtual school. She doesn't like it. She wants to be able to see people. I get it. I'm the same. When they told me to go home and don't come back until we call you, I'm like, that's it. Like I just get to talk to the people on the computer. I'm a social butterfly, but I'm 40 and she's 10. And so at 10, you're trying to figure out, where's your attitude coming from? I know where it's coming from, because you need socialization. You need to laugh with your friends. You need to be able to touch the desk at school and walk up to your teacher and say, I'm confused. And now all of this is bottled in, and ain't nothing you can do about it but sit there and watch YouTube.
Well, also, Brandy, there's also the aspect of, here you have kids now at home, and they're trying to do computer school, and they don't understand it. And like you said earlier, now everybody's homeschooling, what David said, but these parents didn't choose homeschooling. They're also trying to be doctors, and they're trying to be lawyers, and they're trying to keep food on the table. They're trying to work. They're trying to go to Walmart and work, or go anywhere to their jobs, and they still have to come home and deal with their kids at school. So when a kid is frustrated in the computer, the parent just comes up behind him and says, do your work. Why are you lagging off?
Why aren't you doing your work? Right.
They have the parents screaming at them, because the parents are frustrated because they don't know how to homeschool. That wasn't their initial want for their children. So now you have the dynamic between child and parent that was once loving is so strained, because a parent is frustrated and doesn't know what to do, and they can't help the child. So now the child feels like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I have to know because my parent needs me to know.
Right.
And it's damaging our kids, but we're letting it happen, and I do believe that this is part of a bigger agenda. The whole COVID-19, it doesn't make sense. I'm sorry. I know COVID-19 is real. Listen, I lost 9 family members through COVID-19. Just this week, I know 3 more people that have been, I haven't been around them, but I know that they have let us know that they have COVID-19. And so it's still there, it's still active, but what the response is, it's like, don't waste a crisis, right? That's the biggest thing. The government's like, okay, this is a crisis, but don't waste it. Let's pull our agenda to get toward more control of all the citizens of the United States, not just some, it's all of them. It's pulling a new political agenda. Did you guys watch the debate last night?
Yes.
Well, it was honestly like two children, just
That's
having
what
cancer.
I heard.
It was horrible. Neither one of them acted like a president. But the one thing that stood out is, regarding this aspect, is from my understanding, and David correct me, because once again, I don't have my notes sitting right here, but they're going to open up. There's talk about opening up on November 19th. You know, November 9th. November 9th, having the, I want to find my notes because I know they're on the table. Hold on a minute. Having the COVID-19 restrictions starting to lift on November 19th, of November 9th. Now, let me ask you this. How is that possible? That they know November 9th, right after election, that things will be easier and they'll lift restrictions. How is that possible?
I expected it.
Yeah, okay, so it was Trump said, the Democrats said that they will reopen on November 9th.
Yeah.
There's no way. That's an agenda. I'm sorry, that is an agenda. Putting kids in school when adults are saying we're not going to get immunized, we want out, and then put your kids in school. Now everybody's crying, immunize, please, it's our kids. You know, it's an agenda. I don't know how people don't see, or maybe we just don't want to see. You know, we don't want to see the truth. Just like all the unrest with racism is now proving that there's always been slavery. It just changed its look. It just changed the way it behaved. But there was always that agenda to keep minorities, no matter what race it is, minorities down, to keep them in a section of control and poverty. Always has been that agenda and never stopped. There's always been an agenda to have Americans be controlled by a 1% of government. And the financial backers, when you look at who's backing these vaccines, who's backing these organizations that's supposedly fighting the race, you have George Soros, who is in my understanding, one of the worst people that can be on anybody's side. You know, I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but you have politics, you have Democrats and Republicans, you have agitators going to protest to make them violent so that it keeps it going, so that it keeps the war going. And I do think it's a war. And everybody's saying, watch what happens after election. Watch what happens after election.
I believe it.
You know, what do we do with this? I know we got to wrap up, but what do we do with this? How do we protect our kids?
Well, before I answer that, do you think any of this is wrapped up in greed and about money? Even back to the Cuties and the exploitation of our girls. Do you think, and even with the sexual exploitation everywhere with women, do you think it really boils down to the dollar bill? Or
none of this would be happening if it didn't prove money and power. And
that's what I think.
But it goes deeper than that, because there's just a satanic issue to it. You know, we have an enemy of God that is trying to control this world system and trying to take control and keep it going and make it more and more his world instead of let heaven be on earth. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so we have this, it's coming to light. I don't know if it's just getting more amped or we're just starting to see it and understand it. But yes, money and power is the only thing driving, because if you look at every single aspect of this, it's money and power. And it's not for the regular people. Here in California, I was informed 2 weeks ago that it's probably changed, that 40% of the businesses closed will never reopen.
Oh.
Right.
And they're all mom and pop businesses. They're all family owned businesses from generation to generation, passed down. People worked hard. They worked, you know, with sweat and tears, penny pinching, sacrificing to give businesses to their children and their children's children. And they're closed while Walmart's open, Target's open, You know, the governors, you have Pelosi going out getting her hair and nails done without a mask. People are losing their businesses, their homes, everything. But you have the politicians out there without masks on. You have them going to games. You have them doing everything in normal fashion.
Right.
You know, now tell me, listen, if there was really that bad of an epidemic, do you think they would? These people are the most selfish people I know of. And I don't mean every single one of them, but across the board. Do you think Nancy Pelosi would risk her life for her hair and nails if she really understood there was a chance of her getting something that would kill her or her children?
Right. Nope.
No,
There's
she
no
knows.
way.
Don't.
There's no way she would do it. There's
Yeah.
no way she would go to a salon where other people have been without a mask, without any protection. She didn't even wipe down the seats. Nothing. If she really knew that this was the pandemic they're telling us it is, there would be no way, because she cares about her life. She cares about her family. There's no way she would risk it. So you go across the board and you watch the people in power, watch the people with the money, and watch what they're doing, because they know something we don't know. And that is, we believe the lie. We believe the crisis is still going on because they didn't waste a crisis. They just didn't waste it. Now, again, COVID-19 is a real disease. I have suffered loss because of it, but it doesn't, it's not to the point of what they're doing to the American people.
Right.
It's just not.
Right.
I was told today someone has symptoms of a cold. A cold. That person got taken out of work again for the 5th time. Can't come to work for 2 weeks. Loss of income. But not only that person, but everybody in their household now can't go to work for 2 weeks. Nobody has income for 2 weeks now. They don't even have symptoms. Now, could you imagine over the course of our lifetime that if I got a cold or the flu, you couldn't go to work because I saw you?
Right.
We saw each other 4 days ago. So it's within a 2 week. I have to tell everybody in 2 weeks that I now have someone that I saw had cold symptoms. Not even COVID symptoms, cold symptoms. We're now having to alert everybody, and no one can go to work for 2 weeks. That's ridiculous. It's causing poverty. It's causing jobs to be lost. Employers have to say, look, you keep going out. Well, okay, because some people have allergies, and allergies can cause a fever, right? If you have an allergy attack bad enough, you can have a fever. You go to work, you have a fever. You say, I have allergies, sorry, can't go to work. Alert everybody, 2 weeks off. It's crazy. But then you have government. Do you ever hear them taking off? You're telling me that there's never a time that anybody in government that came close to anyone that needed to just say, hey, I can't work, I'm 2 weeks off? I don't hear that. And even if they did, they got paid. But I don't hear it. Do you guys hear it?
Occasionally.
Oh, that's good. At least it's occasionally. So maybe the numbers percentage-wise actually works out. I don't know. I haven't done that. But what I'm saying is there's agendas. And
they complain the same thing that you did. You know, the cascading effect on everything and everybody.
Yeah, the tracking effect of tracking people is ridiculous.
They haven't started doing that yet, have they? Or at least not.
I know it's on, if you have an i or Apple product, iPhone, I know the tracking is on those phones. I don't know if you can, I think you have an option to utilize it or not at this point. It's not mandatory, but it's on there. So you have to not use it.
I was rereading that postcard that I told you about that I got, you know, letting us know that it's coming. And one of the things that really chilled me was they want all your passwords.
Oh.
Yeah. They want to know what you're saying and doing on the computer. So that's a
for those who don't know, David, you got a postcard that said what?
It said, contact tracing is coming to you here in New Mexico. and embrace it. You know, be ready for it. Don't fight the people, and they're not there to hurt you. Blah blah blah. I think I threw it away, um, but I've
And
been very
they said that they would need passwords to be able to trace you and
yeah.
what you're doing. Yeah. Well, listen, I don't want to go too far off the map here, but what we need to do is realize that too much I get, but it's I'm trusting God, and what's going to be is going to be. We just got to wake up every day and do what we're supposed to do, and just trust God.
Amen.
But I agree with that to a point, though. I think we are responsible to know how to pray, what to bring before God, and what to rise up against or stand for or not stand for. We have a responsibility to have our eyes open, right?
Yeah.
And to see and to know and to understand, so that we can bring it to the Lord in prayer and be instructed as to our part, or our part of doing anything. We have to prepare for these things. We're not to get caught up in anger. We're not to get caught up in hatred. We do know God is still on the throne, but we also have to be willing to lay down our lives. And right now, it seems so bizarre that laying down your lives actually means hugging somebody.
Mm-hmm.
How bizarre does that sound? Right. Laying down our lives, being a vessel for Christ in this atmosphere means that if you hear a child being abused, you say something, and you're not silent going with the flow. It means that you cancel your Netflix subscriptions because they are now into the children porn. These things seem like this just should be normal to do. But now to do these is making political statements. It's making a ripple one with another. Like we talked about last week, we can't have open conversations with people because it causes so much anger between everybody. And nobody's willing to hear different opinions. So speaking up for truth is now laying your life down, because who's going to be angry at you for saying what you just said? Who's going to say, sorry, you can't talk to my family members anymore, my children, your grandchildren, for speaking up and saying what you just said? The outlash is real, but we can't let that scare us or detain us or deter us. Regardless of our color of our skin, regardless of our gender, regardless of our profession or political party, there are some things that's just wrong. And we need to, as a Christian society, start speaking up, start getting on our knees, and then following whatever the Lord tells us to do, regardless if the person next to us cares to join us.
We have been reading, I'm not normally into stuff like this, but we have been reading Psalm 91 daily for months. And it talks about how God will not allow plague or pestilence to come near you. And that even if 10,000 people are falling on your right side, that you will be okay. And my wife, who is bedbound for other reasons, told me today she's so reassured because I read that every day.
Yeah, the word is our strength. It is our protection. It's our power. Brandy, you talked about power and money drives most of this evil and this contention and this agenda. But for us Christians, the word of God has to be what drives us. It has to be why we get up in the morning and why we do everything we do, that it's agreeing to the word of God, that it has importance in the kingdom, and that it causes people to know they are loved and protected, because that is the most powerful thing we can do. I thank you guys for our conversation today. It is 7 o'clock. Our time is up. I love this new format. What do you guys think? No commercials in between, just one break, and then we get to talk all we want. So thank you for trying this new format out. I love it. I hope you that are viewing like the new format with less commercial time. Also join us this Sunday. We're going to try it again. We tried it last week. It wasn't quite ready. We're going to try it again this Sunday at 1 o'clock on Truth to Hear on Facebook Live to do a fundraiser, to raise money to help people who have been infected by COVID, to raise money to teach the Word of God to women and to our community. And so join us. We're going to have games. We're going to have raffles. We're going to have guest speakers. Brandy, you're going to come on and say something and have a discussion. And so is David. I believe you said you're going to come on and do something as well. So we look forward to seeing you. Thank you for watching. If you would like to be a guest on Truth Talk, by all means, message me at Truth to Hear on Facebook or Instagram. Thank you so much. Have a great week.
Bye.